The music stopped. Read that again. Not turned down, stopped. 18 months ago, Dubai's nightlife was the most improbable success story in global entertainment. Nightlife, in a Muslim-majority country, built from nothing, through deliberate regulatory liberalization until beach clubs were booked 3 weeks out, palm hotels were flying in six-figure headliners, and downtown rooftops were charging $350 minimum spend per table and filling everyone. Now it's over. Not one reason. 5. Each survivable alone. Together, the anatomy of an ending. The regulatory history of alcohol and entertainment in Dubai is the history of a government making a sequence of pragmatic decisions that, assembled together, produced an outcome that none of the individual decisions would have predicted. The first licensed alcohol sale in Dubai occurred in 1972. The license was issued to a hotel, the institutional designation that has governed Dubai's relationship with alcohol ever since. Alcohol in Dubai is not sold in supermarkets. It is not sold in standalone bars. It is sold in licensed venues attached to hotels and clubs, contained within the specific institutional structures that the regulatory framework determined were appropriate. That framework, alcohol available but institutionally contained, entertainment permitted but physically concentrated, was the architecture Dubai used to build an entertainment economy while maintaining the appearance of compatibility with the social and religious values of the Emirati majority. It worked, not because it was culturally natural, because it was pragmatically constructed with the same intelligence that Dubai applied to every other sector of its development. By the early 2000s, Dubai's hotel nightclub scene was established. Venues on the Palm, in the Marina hotels, in the downtown properties were drawing international acts and international crowds. The business model was validated. Hotel revenue from entertainment licensing. Venue revenue from the minimum spend model. Government revenue from licensing fees and tourism taxes. Then, 2020 happened, and Dubai's nightlife went from established to extraordinary. The pandemic killed nightlife everywhere else simultaneously. Ibiza closed, Mykonos closed, Berlin's legendary clubs closed, and many did not reopen. The infrastructure of international nightlife, the promoters, the DJs, the sound technicians, the brand ambassadors, was displaced, suddenly available. Looking for somewhere open, Dubai was open. The entertainment sector reopened faster in Dubai than anywhere in Europe. Venues that were running again in late 2020 were running to an international crowd that had been locked down for months and was prepared to travel specifically because Dubai was the place where the music was still playing. The promoters came, the DJs came. The Russian millionaires who arrived in 2022 came with the appetite for nightlife that Russian wealth has always brought to its chosen exile destinations. The table service model, the $500 bottle of Grey Goose, the birthday celebration that spends $50,000 in a single evening. 2022 and 2023 were the years Dubai's nightlife became the global story. During the travel sections of publications that had previously sent their writers to Ibiza were sending them to the white venue on the Palm. The booking fees for international headliners were reaching levels that Ibiza promoters were matching but not exceeding. The music was loud, the tables were full. The minimum spends were being met and exceeded. Then it stopped. Not suddenly. In sequence. 5 causes, each one a wound, the 5th one fatal. The Russian customer was not the majority of Dubai's nightlife customer base. The majority was the globally mobile professional expatriate, the European tourist on a winter break, the Gulf national crossing from the stricter social environments of their home country. But the Russian customer was the marginal revenue, the spending at the top of the distribution that converted a good night into an extraordinary one, a profitable evening into a record-breaking one. The Russian nightlife customer in Dubai operated at a specific scale. They came in groups, extended friendship networks, business associates, families who socialized at the scale that Russian social culture among the wealthy produces. They booked tables, multiple tables, the $80,000 Thursday night across 8 tables at a Palm venue from a single Russian group booking was not exceptional. It was representative. It was the booking that the venue's owner was thinking about when they extended the sound system and hired the international headliner and signed the lease renewal at the landlord's asking rent. In 2022 and 2023, the Russian customer was at every premium venue. The accents were audible everywhere. The Russian birthday celebration is a cultural institution that produces the table spend that nightlife economics are built around. We're filling calendars at rates that venues had not seen from any demographic. Then the complications began. Not from Dubai's side. Dubai maintained its non-aligned position. The complications came from the global financial infrastructure that Russian nationals needed to operate. International payment cards became progressively restricted. Transfer mechanisms that worked in 2022 became unavailable by 2024. The ability to move money in and out of Russia, which even relocated Russians never entirely stopped needing, became operationally complicated in ways that changed the customer's experience from celebration to logistics management. The energy changed. The Russian customer who had arrived in 2022 with the specific energy of someone celebrating escape was, by 2024, managing complications rather than celebrating freedom. The spending changed with the energy. Not to zero, to something more careful, more considered, less spectacular. Then February 28th arrived. A city that had been struck by Iranian ballistic missiles was not the destination for the next birthday celebration. Istanbul was closer and cheaper and quieter. The calculation that had brought the Russian customer to Dubai had updated. The Russian revenue did not vanish overnight. It declined over 12 months, steadily, measurably, venue by venue, Thursday by Thursday, table by table. The Russian winter arrived in Dubai's nightlife, and it did not leave. While the Russian departure was the dramatic element, the less visible killer was a series of regulatory adjustments made between 2023 and 2026 that incrementally changed the operating environment for entertainment. None were announced as tightenings. Each was a clarification, a standardization, an improvement. The language of regulatory change in Dubai is always the language of enhancement. Things are not restricted, they are elevated. The licensing fee increases of 2023. Entertainment venue licensing fees in Dubai are managed through an annual renewal framework. The 2023 review presented as a standardization of a fee structure that had become inconsistent, produced increases of between 40% and 120% for mid-tier and premium entertainment venues, 40% to 120% on fees that were already substantial. For venues operating on the margin structure of a nightlife business, high revenue, high cost, profitability, narrower than the headline numbers suggest. The venues absorbed it because 2023 was still working, because the Russian customer was still there, because the calculations still favored paying over closing. But the absorption consumed the buffer. The margin that had allowed the venue to weather a bad month or an expensive booking gone wrong was thinner after the fee increase. The business that was resilient before 2023 was fragile after it. The noise ordinance revisions of 2024, technical standards governing sound levels at entertainment venues, the decibel limits at property boundaries, the measurement methodology, the enforcement mechanism, were revised in ways that changed the operating parameters of outdoor venues and rooftop venues that had built their identity around loud music and open air. The beach clubs and rooftop venues that had built their product around the physical experience of outdoor music, the sound you feel as well as hear, the bass frequency that distinguishes a great outdoor venue from a restaurant with speakers, found themselves operating under constraints that changed their product in ways the customer noticed. The customer noticed in bookings. The bookings reflected what the customer noticed. The entertainment visa processing changes of 2025. International talent requires visas. Visas require processing. The 2025 revisions to entertainment visa processing. Longer timelines, additional documentation, and higher financial guarantees, new content review categories, made the booking of international talent more expensive, more uncertain, and less responsive to the short lead times that the entertainment industry operates on. The promoter who could previously confirm a headliner booking with a 3-week lead time now needed 6. The certainty that had made Dubai plannable for international talent became the uncertainty that made it less preferred. Each regulatory adjustment was individually survivable. Collectively, they compressed the margin to the point where the next external shock would not be absorbed. It would be fatal. The Beach Club was Dubai's specific innovation in global nightlife, the format that distinguished it from every other entertainment destination. Not the hotel nightclub. That exists everywhere. The Beach Club, the Dubai synthesis of daytime luxury beach experience and evening entertainment programming that turned a venue into a 12-hour proposition. The economics of the Dubai Beach Club at peak were among the most favorable in global hospitality. 500 capacity at 85% on a Friday and Saturday. Minimum spend model ensuring predictable revenue capture. Table reservation system collecting revenue in advance. Food, alcohol, and entertainment in a single venue across 12 operating hours, ensuring multiple revenue touchpoints per customer. The minimum spend. The specific commercial mechanism that made the Beach Club economics work. The commitment, enforced at the reservation stage, collected on arrival, that every customer would spend a minimum amount before leaving. The minimum spend converted the Beach Club's capacity into a revenue floor. Now, you knew when the venue was at capacity, the minimum revenue the evening would generate. The actual revenue was typically multiples of the minimum. The minimum spend history of Dubai's flagship beach clubs is the history of its nightlife economy in a single data series. 2019, $150 per person on a Friday. 2022, $280 per person. 2023, $350 per person. The peak. The number that reflected a market at maximum confidence. The number that said, the demand for this experience is strong enough that we can charge $350 before a customer has eaten or drunk anything, and they will pay it and come back. 2024, $280 per person. The first reduction, not announced as a reduction, announced as a restructured pricing model that offered greater flexibility. Early 2026, $180 per person. March 2026, after February 28th, $120 per person. From $350 to $120 in 30 months. The $350 minimum spend was the number of a venue at the absolute peak of the confidence that its market had in its product. $120 is the number of a venue that is trying to keep the lights on by lowering the barrier to entry below the level that its cost structure can sustain at current capacity. $120 minimum spend at 60% capacity is not the same revenue as $350 minimum spend at 85% capacity. It is approximately 24% of it, from the same venue, in the same location, with the same infrastructure. 24% of peak revenue, with costs that have not declined at the same rate, with the licensing fees from 2023 still in the cost base, with the staff roster still largely intact because labor in the hospitality sector does not scale down as quickly as revenue. The beach club format that built Dubai's nightlife brand is now running at margins that require the next exceptional weekend to compensate for the last several ordinary ones. And exceptional weekends are not arriving at the rate they were. Behind the visible nightlife, the venues, the DJs, the table service, there is an invisible economy that makes the visible economy possible. The promoter economy. The promoter is the connector. They take a concept and a venue and a talent booking and a customer list and assemble them into the product. They are not on the poster. They are the reason the poster exists. Dubai developed a specific promoter class between 2015 and 2023, promoters who understood the Russian customers' preferences for venue configuration and entertainment style. Promoters with Gulf national relationships, the ability to reach the Saudi and Kuwaiti and Bahraini wealthy who crossed into Dubai for the entertainment their home countries restricted. promoters who had built European expat networks that constituted the base load of the nightlife economy's reliable weekly spending. The promoter economy at its 2022 and 2023 peak supported approximately 200 active operators of varying scales, not all full-time, many running promotion alongside primary employment, but 200 entities moving customers through the ecosystem, taking commission from table revenue, building customer lists, competing for the high-spending bookings that determined who thrived and who merely survived. The promoter's business model is entirely dependent on the customer. No customer, no table booking. No table booking, no commission. No commission, no promoter business. The Russian customer departed. The Gulf national recalculated after February 28th. The Saudi and Kuwaiti who crossed into Dubai for the weekend recalibrated their risk assessment when the city they were crossing into had appeared in the same news cycle as Iranian ballistic missiles. The European expat professional population contracted by 32% as the corporate departures accumulated. 3 customer categories simultaneously diminished. 3 revenue streams simultaneously contracted. The promoter business model, which had no mechanism to absorb simultaneous multi-category customer decline, began failing. By March 2026, the active promoter count in Dubai's nightlife ecosystem had contracted to approximately 40 operators. 160 had left the market. Not all left Dubai. Now, many transitioned to event management, hospitality consulting, the management of talent relationships applied to corporate entertainment rather than consumer nightlife. But the institutional knowledge, the customer lists, the venue relationships, the talent booking contacts, the operational intelligence that took a decade to accumulate, dispersed with the promoters who held it. That knowledge does not return when the market recovers. It has to be rebuilt. Rebuilding it takes another decade. The promoter ecosystem that built Dubai's nightlife brand is not a resource that can be called back. It is a resource that has to be grown again from the conditions that originally grew it. Those conditions no longer exist in the form they existed in 2015. February 28th, 2026 fell on a Saturday. In Dubai's nightlife calendar, one Saturday is the second night of the weekend, the hotel nightclub night, the late programming that runs midnight to 5 a.m., the night that follows Friday's beach club marathon and carries the weekend's commercial energy into the small hours. Every licensed entertainment venue in Dubai that Saturday night was either closed by government instruction or by the voluntary decision of management responding to the military situation. The DJs, who had been flown in for the weekend, booked months in advance, contracts signed, flights arranged, hotels confirmed, were in their rooms or at the airport. The timing was not incidental. February is the peak of Dubai's nightlife calendar. The European winter sending wealthy sun-seekers to the Gulf. The optimal outdoor temperature for beach club programming. The pre-Ramadan surge as residents seek the experiences that the holy month's social restrictions will temporarily limit. February is when the nightlife economy generates the revenues that fund the rest of the year. The cancellation of an entire peak Saturday night, the revenue from the full tables, the confirmed minimum spends, the contracted talent, the rostered staff, was the immediate blow, measured in millions across the venues of the Palm, the Marina, downtown JBR. But the immediate revenue loss was not the lasting damage. The lasting damage was the association. Every person who had been considering Dubai for their next birthday celebration, their next corporate entertainment event, their next weekend break watched the footage loop on February 28th. The smoke over the skyline, the Terminal 3 evacuation, the Burj Al Arab with marks on its facade, the beach on a peak February Saturday completely empty. And they made a different booking. The Mykonos promoter, who had been losing market share to Dubai for 3 years, received an inquiry volume increase in March 2026 that they had not generated and did not deserve. The Istanbul venue that had been developing a Russian customer base received confirmation bookings from customers who had previously confirmed in Dubai. The association between Dubai's nightlife and the night the missiles arrived is not the kind of association that a tourism campaign resolves. It is the kind of association that time resolves, if time is given to resolve it. If the other four killers had not already been at work before